Like this makes it a little easier. Okay. All right. Well, let's call this meeting to order for the Parks Board. We'll start with the roll call, starting to my left.
Brenda Coltoff.
Ellie Whitaker,
Keith Cecil,
Rhonda Ankeny,
Roger Hitz.
and we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Moving on to last month's minutes. Did everybody have the opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes.
Any questions on the minutes? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, and let's be prudent to review the budget this time. It is attached in your meeting packet there. As a side note, Julie, that was fantastic information about the grant. So.
I
awesome.
agree.
Yeah. Great. 3 out of 16. That's,
Yes, sir.
and we're the one. That was really cool.
So I have a meeting with the agency later this week to kind of do the kickoff and kind of get information so we can make sure we're getting started on that.
Fantastic.
And I've got questions on the budget.
Okay. Well, as a follow-up is, are we still thinking breaking ground at some point, in the fall or?
So that trail project, it was scheduled to be a 2022 construction project,
Okay.
and that is in line with the grant application.
Okay. Proceed.
Okay. On Bartlesville Utilities, there's no payment made in May. February, March, April, June.
So we paid twice in April,
Oh, okay.
so we paid for some things. They just, yeah,
So the April 30 was the May payment.
most likely, yeah, so it looks.
Okay, now the next question is, going back to this last year. One roundabout, on running 1333, is it not working?
I don't believe that they've been irrigating at, so 1333 is a base charge, so.
I know, that's why I'm saying.
Yeah, it doesn't appear that they've actually been irrigating at that.
I know, remember last year, I found out it wasn't working.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I have, trying to understand this. on departments, 510 for non-building improvements. But we've got $12,544 left in this year's budget.
Repairs and maintenance, non-building improvements.
So is that what we have left, the 12,444?
That is what the report, well, the report has encumbered, well, that much.
Okay. Reason I'm going there is Greenleaf's bid was 1,500 and we paid them 5,000. And for mowing for the rest of the year, it'll be another 1,400. So that's $114. And we plant some trees, help him dry the money.
It looks like we need to talk to the accounting department because Greenleaf is not, and make sure that Greenleaf is being booked consistently to the same line item. So what we would have done is when we signed the contract with Greenleaf, we would have encumbered the amount.
Oh,
And so sometimes they will not deduct it from the encumbrance, they will just deduct it from the line item so that it looks like it hits your line item twice. So we need to make sure that we're pulling from the PO and the encumbrance and not hitting it twice.
I just want to make sure we got money to cover trees if we decide to put trees.
Yeah. So that's just something we need to double check, that we're coding that correctly. So we can do that, and if needed, send out an updated report to you folks.
Okay.
That's all I had. On the budget.
Anybody else have anything on the budget? Okay, well then we'll wait to get an update.
We'll check on that.
So moving on to new business, we have the Central Indiana Bicycling Association ride passing through. And we'll be using Windish Park as one of the bus stops on there. I'm assuming they reached out to you to
Correct.
notify
I
us about this.
received an email last week just asking if they could use the park, and since it is a public facility, I said, of course, I just would let the park board know that it was going to be used for that purpose.
Do we
So-
know how many?
I don't know how many riders, but he said that it would be between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. I've got my email here for a note. I could have sent to you and I just didn't think about that. It will entail no more than 2 vehicles and 1 or 2 people providing snacks and drinks for the riders as they go through.
And do they, I mean, are they gonna take care of trash and everything, I'm guessing? Because I
Yeah,
know
they
with the
said all
bicycle.
Yep, all trash will be picked up and the park will be left as found.
Awesome.
So they're being respectful of the parks and everything, and
Yeah.
if you want me to find out how many people they're anticipating, I can reach back out to them and let you know.
Are they just gonna go in and use the parking area? They're not gonna be riding around the park on the pavement?
It's my understanding that they're just going to be setting up a table
for, as a rest stop there. So the bikers will come in and just a couple at a time and just pick up a bottle of water,
Okay.
a banana, whatever they've got for them, and then they'll continue on their ride.
Do we know if the porta potty is gonna be serviced before they're there? I'm concerned that there might be a demand issue.
I can check into that. So the August 8th is a Sunday, and usually the portalet is serviced on Fridays or Saturdays. So I can just make sure that,
Might need some extra that week or something.
sure.
Okay.
That's exciting. Okay, and typically with those, I know that they don't, not everyone is gonna obviously show up at one time, so it should, I don't think they should.
Although, one thing I've seen them riding.
They do ride in packs, you're right.
They're
I mean, they
riding
do.
packs of 20, 30.
They do, but there's only so many folks you can get through on a road anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so how about Founder's Fountain? So we had our meeting, right? And Rhonda was there for that. Tell us how it went.
So I attended the July 12th town council meeting and presented the information on the community vote. And the board did pass agreed unanimously that the Founder's Fountain Park should be renamed as Legacy Plaza.
Great. That's exciting. Well, I don't feel like there was enough excitement about that because that was like a long time.
The excitement is to come because I would like to try to form a subcommittee
Right.
to move forward with getting it cleaned up, number one. It's horribly overgrown. I think we may have even had a community member make comment or send an email to Bethany about concerns about the overgrown plants. So that certainly should be a priority for us to look at on as far as the park goes. And then I would like to look into getting a sign for the park, for the plaza as soon as possible, so that we can begin that push to sell those pavers, so people can at least know where their paver's gonna be by a sign. So the next step then would be to form that subcommittee, I think.
Yeah. And
I'm gonna say one thing about the overgrowth. Linda mentioned it on her report today. Susie Qualls mentioned it to our landscaper last meeting, after the meeting. And I got an email from Jeff Beck today.
right, I think we all got that same one. It sounds like that led into another.
Well, just to tell you who Jeff Beck is, he's the one that
Right.
brought this in.
Right, I remember that, yeah. So we've been having some other issues with them not showing up. Greenleaf, I think that you said it, they hadn't been here in a couple of weeks at some point to service our I don't remember exactly what you said, but there's some kind of issue that they weren't showing up for something or other. Maybe I dreamed that.
Yeah, we weren't sure how consistently they were attending to the parks, I guess would be the best way to say that.
Right.
In talking to them, they provided dates that we were here, or that they were here working on things.
Oh, okay.
But I guess I would say I would have hoped that the evidence that they would have been here would have been clearer than it was. So, I usually hope that when someone's here doing maintenance of those types of things, it would be pretty evident and obvious. And so when it's not, that makes me want, if I'm calling to see if they've been here, then
There's a problem.
there's a problem with what's going on,
Okay,
is the way I look at it.
Julie, in their bid, well, this is for Founder's Fountain. Bed care, 5 monthly visits. Monthly visits will be needed from April to the end of October to take care of mulch beds. Well, that's
So
what-
this building, what I'm saying is this building, they're supposed to be here twice a month.
And Founder's Fountain.
We had,
And we added Founder's Fountain.
Yeah,
So, we need to be clearer on what our expectations are. And what we would like to have done, because my personal opinion is that we have people that really enjoy the parks and that I personally want those to look great whenever someone is there.
I've been disappointed, in the service that we've received this year from them. I don't feel like they're even holding up the bare minimum of the contract that we had with them. And I think, you're falling very short. Tonight on my way, that's why I was a little bit late, I stopped at Switzer Park because I took pictures of the flowers that they put out, and they're absolutely horrible. The bid, I believe, included for 6 flats of summer flowers. And the only place in Switzer Park that has flowers for annuals is around the sign. And I took a picture tonight, and there are like maybe 8 plants in that, and they're scraggly. They probably went to clearance somewhere and got them, stuck them in the ground, and they're not thriving, they're awful, and they look horrible. It's a horrible representation for our parks. It would be better for it to be bare than to have those plants there. And I'm very disappointed. I don't know if it's probably too late in the season to complain about that type of stuff, but it's definitely something I think we should keep in mind when it's time to renew a contract or review for next year. The other parks, I didn't make it over to Windish tonight, but the last time I was there, I noticed the plants there were very poor, and there for 8 flats there, and there's not even half a flat planted at either location. So that's just one example of what I feel are their shortcomings this year.
Great.
Well, I don't, I haven't been, I've been out of town, but, after all the rain and all that kind of stuff, you'd think we would be good. It's not like we're having a drought, but I would question, I think there is still some time to be able to do some of that, because I think we could get a late blooming, there could be some stuff just seasonal that we could ask them what might be appropriate to be a change out or something if we felt like we wanted to raise it to that level.
I think anything added at this point would take them a little bit closer to their contracted 6 flats. I mean, 6 flats of flowers is a lot of flowers.
Yeah.
And even if you lose half of them due to summer heat or drought or whatever, there's no way that there were 6 flats of flowers ever planted there.
Did they also, are they supposed to be maintaining the horseshoe at Windish?
Yes.
Sort of, yeah, but that's separate from the other quote.
Right, but
Yeah.
we talked to, wasn't that Greenleaf that was here the last
Yes.
meeting? We talked to him about doing all that stuff.
Correct, yes.
I mean, it looks horrible.
Yeah.
It's all overgrown, and I mean, you can hardly see what flowers were there to begin with, because everything else is just taken over, about like this out here. And in my, excuse me, my report today, I mentioned that just as I was getting out of the car, there was probably 6 or 8 young adults coming out, and they had been throwing the football around and stuff. They had it with them. And so I just introduced myself and asked them how they liked the park, and they thought it was great. They said, I asked them, well, do you have any suggestions or anything? And they said, well, maybe some flowers. And I said, well, you know, we're in the process of redoing that whole bed up there and so forth. And then they also mentioned a gazebo and maybe an adult swing, like you see out on the porch swing, 2 or 3 seater. And so I made note of that. But other than that, they thought the park was great. And another young mother was there with her children and her dog, and she said it was the first time they'd been there and they loved it. So we're getting some positive vibes back there, but the maintenance of it needs to, then they'd really be walled.
Yeah. Well, and I pulled the contracts, or I assume that what we represent is what they ultimately signed. And on Windish Park, item number 10 is bed care. And it says 5 monthly visits as needed from April to end of October to take care of mulch beds. We will spray and pull any weeds in the beds. This includes removing debris from the beds. So again,
Yeah.
not even close, not even close.
That is on all the parks.
Yeah, but Windish is the absolute worst, but you're right, Switzer Park still has weeds growing in the mulch around the playground, and I don't see that there's been anything done.
That's a little different, separate subject. Playground mulch. And on the inspection report, there's only 6 inches, it should be 9. So I think really we need to take all that out and go down another 3 inches and put it back. Because I pulled weeds out of there earlier this year. And what it is, that mulch has been in there so long, it's deteriorated, so
It's become dirt.
it's become good fertile soil for the weeds to grow in. I think to solve that problem, we need to get in compliance.
Right.
Put in 9 inches of new mulch.
But aside from that, kind of circling back to some of these other comments, it does seem to me like if I know you've already reached back out to voice the concerns, is there some, in lieu of not hitting it from 2 angles, is there a way that we could know what was said, or a way that we could kind of add to some of these comments that you guys have already maybe stated to them because I agree with, from my standpoint, I agree with Kelly that there's still time. We should see what could be done, perhaps to make it right. I feel like any good business would try to make it right some way or another. That clearly there's been several shortcomings with, what the company said they were going to do and what they've done. So, I would be glad to reach out, but again, I don't know that 2 separate efforts on that is appropriate there. So should we get a committee together, or should we all figure out what all these different issues are and sort of email them all in one lump sum? What has been done so far?
I have had issues getting responses from them, to
Okay.
be honest.
Okay.
So that's part of my problem, is
Okay.
that I'm having issues even getting communication back from them, from what I have sent. And so, like, my initial contacts with them have been questions of, when have you been here? When can we expect you to come again? Things like that, like just to try to get a conversation going, and I've had issues with that. So I think for me, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, but to make a full list of the issues that we have, compile a list of the issues and compared to the contract, and communicating that with Mike, the owner, either via email so that there's a paper trail of sorts, which is what I've been trying to do, or call to set up a meeting, which I'd be willing to facilitate as well.
Yeah.
But I think if we at least start with a list of grievances or
Yes.
issues
Right.
that we have and compile a full list, I can start one on my end, and then if you would each, or if you want to have a couple of you, just make a list of things that you would like to have presented to Greenleaf, I can do that. And include you on emails, or copy you as well, so that
Yep.
you can see that this is the communication that's happening, and this is what we may or may not be getting back as well.
I think all of that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
So how about we do that? Everyone has taken some time. We'll make a commitment by the end of the week. Is that fair? End of the week, we'll email you any issues that we note separately. If you wouldn't mind to compile those, send out an email to them and schedule a meeting and if we don't hear something back, appropriate follow-ups to that. He gave me his card as well. I had a conversation with him outside. I'll probably just call him and let him know that we're compiling as well.
Okay.
He said to call him. He said, call me anytime if you have any questions. So, yeah. So it seems like it's just fun. It's common. Okay. Well, that sounds like a great. Anybody have anything else to add on that? I know you brought up a separate issue, Mr. Hitz, about the mulch bed, but that wasn't really included.
It's not in the
Right.
contract.
So maybe,
It was just in there to top it off and
right.
maintain what we had, but that's something else that we need to address.
Maybe next year or something, yeah.
So with the concerns, especially with Founder's Fountain and the overgrowth here, I mean, I honestly feel like it's becoming a traffic issue, pulling out and being able to see around all that, I think it's Russian sage and everything that's out front. Are we in a position to ask someone to come in and kind of remove that stuff? Or is that something we need to ask the landscape company to do?
I think we're already paying for that personally, but I don't know what you guys think. I mean,
If our maintenance people had time to do it, I wouldn't see any reason why we couldn't. I don't think it'd be breaking a contract with them because they're not maintaining it to begin with. That to have at least cut back or removed completely.
I think what would be helpful is just understanding, is it a lack of upkeep, or do we just have the wrong types of plants there? I mean, if they're made to be large and doing what they're doing, then maybe we need to rethink and replant at some point and maybe trim back. I don't know that I am well versed enough to say, yeah, we got the wrong thing here.
Yeah.
I think
So
that
I
is
feel
the
like-
issue. I think the plants are wrong. If you look at the plants that I was out here a little while this weekend, and if you look at the plants and their adult sizes,
Right.
they're much too large. They're
For this
very
area.
they're very much doing what they're supposed to do, but they're very large and too large for the area.
That was my point. Hopefully we can maybe trim and get by, but it may be that we just need to redo whether it's green leaf or next year or whatever, then we may need to reconsider the size and the appropriateness of the plants that we have out there.
I agree.
I do wonder what they would do though. I mean, I do think it's very well worth it to,
Ask.
yeah. I would definitely add that on the list because clearly we're asking the maintenance of the area. Granted, if they're trimming them to the appropriate size, that's one thing, but if the size isn't aesthetically pleasing, I mean, that's fairly common language for, I think, landscapers to know that language that, I don't know, I'd be curious to see what they could do. I mean, if they're not gonna do it, then it is what it is,
That's when we had the same problem last year.
right, with the same other company.
Yeah, 'cause, well,
It was a different company.
it was a different company, but, I mean, this was later on in the year than they came in and did their fall cleanup, and they cut it back. Which wasn't a problem, but it was a problem with people having sight vision and out on the sidewalks. So I think what we need to do, probably think about next year, replacing them.
Maybe on the list, to ask, because, looking at the contract and the pruning, like a late spring prune, usually done in June, was that done? If not, I mean, so
Yeah.
it might help the interim part. And then just ask their opinion on, something that might be more appropriate for the area if we were to redo them in the future.
Just, I think as an FYI, I believe Greenleaf was the company that landscaped the area initially.
Initially.
Just throwing that out there for thoughts.
I know they put the pavers in, so they probably did all of it.
If that's is there a way to look that up?
I saw it today. It was Greenleaf that did that. They planted those initially.
That should be addressed in that email as well, as if there were inappropriate plants to begin with, that, right, that should be common knowledge for, I don't know, I would like to at least hear the response about if they're not the right plant,
10 years ago, they were smaller plants, so they're probably okay then.
Well, yeah, but I guess with a landscape,
But that might be what the council wanted.
yeah, oh, well, that's true, if they specifically ask for that, then that's a different story.
Commission asked for,
Would probably be hard to believe, but maybe they went into that type of
or
detail
agreed to them anyway.
or agreed to it, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I would be
Hindsight's always
curious.
20/20,
I would
isn't
be
it?
curious to see how that all went down, but at any rate, yeah, that seems like poor advice.
I might be able to help a little. The designer picked all of the plants.
So it wasn't.
Oh, we designer picked all the
Board.
plants?
Yeah, there was no town input on what plants were chosen.
That would make
They're
sense.
a
They get paid to
landscaper, they
design.
designed it, they picked
Right.
the plants. There was no input from us on what plants were put out there.
Yeah, that makes sense that it would work that way.
But yeah, they picked inappropriate plants, that's.
Seems like that's on them,
They can
to
switch
me.
them out. But
Yeah,
again, maturity's an issue, so.
but like if I'm going to Lowe's and I'm picking out plants, it's gonna give me a picture and it's gonna tell me about how big those suckers are gonna get. So, I think if Lowe's is doing that, a landscaping company probably has an idea of what the in size it's gonna be. And if it's not right for the size, to me, maybe I'm wrong on that, but that just seems like a warranty type of an issue there to me. But I don't know, I do think it's worth a conversation if we're already contacting them anyways about this other issue, so. I'll put that on my list then, when I email it.
Here you go, Keith.
All right.
I can tell you from past seasons, each landscaper does seem to have good intent, and then for whatever reasons, service has seemed to taper off as the season goes on. I'm sure it's varied with different vendors, different landscaping companies. And I think I understand we're kind of little small potatoes. And if you don't pay much attention to Windish, then it's small potatoes too. It's beautiful, large bed that could be cared for wonderfully with the amount of effort it takes. But when Kep Parks comes on, they're all gonna be wishing they had the contract. Again, when there's gonna be a time where we won't be just small, just a sign that needs landscaped here and, a little bit of maintenance there. They're gonna want to be associated with our town. And I would, help impress that on them if you would like some help from the citizens of the area. You can let them know that we're watching.
Well, and at a minimum, you should be expected to carry out your contract, even if it is for 1 year.
That'd be nice. And again, I would think they'd want to be in good standing with us for the future.
I also think
I've heard of
you're an individual and if they're not meeting your needs, it's easy to call and, and as a town, we're not necessarily calling, and that's what we're wanting to do now is kind of bring to attention. I wonder if we put it in the future that we put, if we don't have signs, that we put a sign of who manages our beds. So that might behoove them to do their, look good in their own area. Just a thought that might help keep them a little more honest. Not any company, as you mentioned, not just any particular company.
I think that's a great idea to keep in mind.
Like roundabouts, now I understand. The companies take care of them for the privilege of having a sign up with their name on it. Is that right?
Correct.
We don't pay for that.
Right, in that
But-
same
but on the
vein, I
same
think it can
vein,
help
yeah.
them look good,
Yeah.
that can help
If,
us
if
look good.
there's,
If
their
they're making
names up
themselves
there.
look good.
Right. Well, to make the point, drive by the roundabouts and look at how well-maintained they are.
There you go.
And then drive by here and see how well-maintained it is. I think there's a huge difference.
What an incentive.
Yeah.
Their name's right there.
That's what I was agreeing with you,
Yeah,
if their name's there,
absolutely.
they're gonna,
Free advertisement
Bad
for them, but they
advertising.
don't want to have bad advertisement, which may help us in what we're trying to accomplish.
It's a good idea.
So we'll email you our requests and then, but staying with the landscape theme, we did have a tree request, a couple months ago, at Windish. Dave Windish reached out to Bethany about that. Since that time, there was another email that was sent. I went ahead and printed that email off that states that they would suggest that we spend our time and money elsewhere in the parks, but thank you for the consideration. So I would second passing, sort of allowing that request to subside unless anybody objects to not replacing those. I feel like if we do that,
like I said, the area where there's one of them, there's already 2 trees there next to the path.
right,
There's a little, it's not that far from where the tree was that was cut down.
right. So it should resolve itself, yeah. So, okay. Okay, moving into the next item on the agenda is the park impact fee study and park master plan update. I'm guessing I can turn that over to Julie on that update since we don't know a lot yet.
All right, I'll do what I can for you
All
here.
right, thanks.
So, couple things. I believe we are going to try to schedule the consultant on the master plan to come to the meeting next month and kind of talk to you folks and kind of just go over some things with the group in general. So trying to work on getting Austin in here to meet with you guys as a group. I think that would be beneficial. Right now he's gathering kind of the background data and looking at where we are and where we've been, and the growth that we've had and what our potential levels of service might need to be and what our goals might want to be. So those are the kind of what our goals will be, and some of those kind of questions are what he's going to want to talk to you about. So he can either call all of you and have individual conversations, or he can come in and talk to you as a group. And I thought if he came in and talked to you, the conversation might spur other ideas if you do it that way. So
unless you object to that.
Like, are you proposing like at the tail of the meeting or?
Yeah, he would be on the agenda and he'd probably need probably 15, 20 minutes
Okay.
worth of conversation with you guys.
Yeah.
It's what he
Perfect.
would plan.
Great.
He might have a lot of ideas and it might take a few more minutes, but
Keep the agenda light that week.
so that's kind of where we're looking on that. And then the impact fee study, they have requested a lot of data from our planning department and staff in general in terms of building permits and potential for, one of the things we do is we look at all the vacant parcels in the town and try to assign a probability of them being developed in the next 10 years. So it's a fun exercise that we go through to try to calculate what our potential growth is, which then translates to park demand. So that we're kind of in a data crunching phase on the impact fee study. So that committee probably either early to mid-August will get the group together and kind of review all the data that we've put together for the impact fee. We'll send out information as early and often as we can on those for scheduling meetings.
I know we had talked about some of us kind of being involved in any of that. So, obviously let us know if we can help out with
Yeah,
that
Those-
stuff, so.
those of you that volunteered for the master plan committee, we had sent out kind of a questionnaire.
We've done this before.
It's not my first time at so those of you on the master plan committee, we had sent out a kind of a SWOT analysis. So if you had some thoughts on that you want to send back to Austin, that would be great. Kind of the group's thoughts from our meeting were included, but feel free to add anything else that you can think of.
Looking forward to the progression of these two projects.
Yeah, so we will probably be trying to wrap these up and officially be on the agenda in October.
Wow,
So,
fast.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Very good. Well, thanks for the update.
yeah,
Okay, so there's a note on our agenda about landscape maintenance. We've kind of addressed that, I feel like. So, anybody have anything to add to that while we're passing by that item?
Just a quick
Yeah.
thing with that, I have reached out to Todd, our police chief, Todd Bertram, and he and I are going to get together on Wednesday to take some aerial photos of the parks that we can use in proposals for next year with maintenance. And just to say, this is what the parks look like during the middle of summer. This is what you're going to be taking care of to propose your work accordingly.
Yeah.
So
The website.
Okay.
I
we might
like
not want to use those for the website. We're going to be doing some updates, but
Very good. All right. Well, that's great. That'll be really helpful to visually have those sight lines to reference and stuff. Cool. Okay, so Community Day projects. So let's review that. Anybody have any thoughts on any additional Community Day projects at this point? We've kind of, I believe, pushed that through till the target September, I believe was our last conversation. We're still in the process of trying to gather some projects that we can do on that day. I thought about this a little bit, and I'm wondering if our scope is too wide. It doesn't feel like we're getting towards the end to me. Do we feel like we're progressing towards this community day, or am I wrong on that?
I feel like we have a direction.
I don't
Yeah.
either. I would agree. I feel like we need to dial in on that, whether it's a subcommittee or you just say, hey, Keith, you need to figure this one out. Something, but if we're going to, in my opinion, if we're going to continue to leave this on the agenda and target this day, a day in September, which I don't even think we set that yet, but somehow we need a game plan to make some progress rather than circling back to it each month. Does anyone have, I mean, like I said, I would be glad to help spearhead that unless anyone feels really passionate about that.
We'll take that passionate run.
Run straight to the park and do all the stuff.
Grab your shovel on the way.
Well, I think at one point we talked about.
We might need it with at this rate with all the,
I'm ready to get my own out.
right?
Well, I think at one point we talked a little bit about the signs just maybe needing painting to keep that updated. I feel like that's I don't necessarily think that's enough of the project, but I think that could be one project that doesn't take a lot of extra skill so I feel like maybe that could be added to the list. Because that helps preserve the signs to make sure that they're painted and.
Okay. Well, let me try to put something together that's a little bit more actionable that we can start from, maybe a proposed date, some of the things we could do. We've done something like this in the past, is that correct? A community day? Not really.
We done a community day, you got me out there, Lynn.
Lynn Hassan did one year, and we mowed some people's yards and cleaned some gutters out. I don't know how she put out the call
Okay,
to see what community members might need that sort of help
right?
for community day, but
Okay,
I remember being involved with that one year.
that was helping people in the community, we're talking about working in the park.
Yeah, that's a different, all I've been involved in is the one year that Lynn Hess reached out.
Couple of years, 2 years ago, I know it's, and for too long, but groups from school came to the day of caring.
Right, I remember us talking about that now.
So
Yeah,
that's the only thing I know of, in the parks is the day of caring, that's school kids come,
okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
Has that been another year or two, or?
I definitely remember the school kids one year. I don't know that I remember them being here another year in the parks.
I don't know if they're going to be doing that this year or not.
I haven't been contacted.
I think it's already passed, the day of caring, already passed this year.
No, they're in school. Thinking they were in school.
That's what I'm saying.
I
They're-
I don't know, I don't know what,
School kids, they were in school, got out of school.
But they're not in school right now.
No.
Is what I'm saying. It's
Yeah,
already
but-
passed. They've already had it. And with the
Oh,
COVID
no, it was in,
in the fall,
July. The year I did it was in July, 2 years ago.
with the COVID and everything, it's probably been,
Yeah.
wasn't done last year probably.
No.
Okay, well, we'll try to get something together. I'll try to have something more concrete for the next meeting. We can at least take a look at if that's fair. We can try to come up with something and see if we want to move forward on it. Fair enough? Okay,
and feel free to give us a call if you have questions
okay. I'm
on
back.
that, okay?
Okay, thanks. Anybody else have anything for the new discussion? Before we,
I got something
Yes.
for Julie.
okay.
I'm gonna bring it up again. I thought it was gonna be starting on Kipart Park this year, but it's got any bid, are they for bids or bids out or anything?
Bids are not out at this time. We put, the design was on hold for a couple months while we looked at the roundabout footprint to make sure we stayed out of that. So now we've picked that project back up.
Oh, that's one thing a lot of people have been asking me, said, oh, the town put out last spring that we're starting on Kipart Park and nothing's happened besides a couple trees cut down.
I understand that.
Very good. Anything else? All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Yeah.